All right,
All
and
right.
we're live. Welcome to another episode of the Live Clean and Fight Dirty show with your main host, John Hackelman, and your co host, Angelo Ferrer. Today's topic is women's self defense really self defense? Some martial arts schools have women's self defense classes that are for your average passerby. Those 6 weeks courses, you can come in, or sometimes they come to you. They'll come to your workplace and they'll go over a 6 week, 3 week, 2 week. There's different versions of this. Really quick, just for your average person to kind of take a look and dabble in the martial arts and maybe learn how to poke someone in the eye. While others don't have a women's self class at all. They just women and men, everyone just trains together and they all work together towards whatever goal their school or approach has. Now, which approach is better? Mixed, women's only? Should there be like a quick course to this? Should women be training differently? Is there really even such a thing as women's self defense? Well, we have John Hackelman here to go in between all those questions and more. So, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will bring them into the conversation. If they're totally off topic, I'll bring them in a little later. Then I will bring them in. Let's get started. So, John?
It bugs me when it's not just self defense, but self defense is a big one because that's what we do, you know. But I mean, if you think about it, it's like, what does that even mean? You know, what why would you have a woman's self defense at all, as opposed to self defense? You know, it'd be like, I guess women's baseball means you're playing against each other. So does women's self-defense mean to defend yourself if you're a woman against another woman? Because what if you're defending yourself against a man? Would that be man's self-defense or woman's self-defense? You know what I mean? So it's like, what about men being attacked by women? Should we have our own self-defense there? So we call it men's self-defense? It boggles my mind because it makes no fucking sense. It's like self-defense is self-defense. If somebody's trying to kill you, you have to stop the threat, no matter if they have a penis or not, you know? So if that boggles my mind the most. And why would you teach a woman any differently than you would teach a man? Because of their difference in their anatomy? Would that make the difference? Because some people say, well, women are by nature smaller. So what if, okay, so it's a small person's self-defense? What if it's a, what if it's a, you know, 5'6", 125-pound guy? Or then what if it's a 6 foot, 200-pound woman? Should they flip-flop? I mean, to genderize defending yourself, it's kind of a slap in the face. Um, it's kind of an insult for anyone to really do that because it sounds so stupid and it is so stupid that anyone that does that, I mean, it's like, who would do that? Oh, I'm going to do a woman's self defense. And then what do you teach them differently than the men's self defense? You know what I mean? Oh, kick him in the balls. What if she's being attacked by another woman? Oh, I don't know. It's stupid. It's just so dumb. It's one of these things that just makes me go, holy shit! What's next? Like Mexican self-defense or black self-defense, white self-defense? Why would why would the sex have any difference in the level of or the manner of defending their life?
It's marketing, right? Well, I mean, a big part of it's got to be marketing. Like, I'm gonna good. We'll jump back into the average person who doesn't train at all, or whoever might be watching this. But a lot of it is marketing. Like, get my foot in the door. I'm running a school. I want to get my school's name out there. I could just go in and say, hey, I want to do a self defense course at your corporation to talk about the school I open in your town. Or I say I want to do a women's self-defense course in which I teach the exact same shit I teach everyone else, but I just label it women's self-defense. And I go in there, and then for fun, I bring in the guy with the giant suit and let him beat up one of my black belts just to try to get some sign-ups.
Yeah, it's marketing. So the marketing it's a cute little, scheme, and it's it's scary to me that people will buy that. That's, I guess, it means it shows how little people are educated at all when it comes to self defense or what self defense is or what self defense should be. So they'll buy that. It's an easy sell, and for some woman just goes in with like, da, 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 da. Just to get raped, I'll kick him in the balls. Oh. It's
No,
pretty.
no. Be assertive and just say no. Stand
No,
back.
back. And I'm all for it. No, and don't get me wrong, I'm all for empowering women, but I'm equally for empowering men as well. I'm equally for empowering children, and I'm equally, for empowering adults. I mean, I think we should empower all good, God-fearing people, you know? So I think all of us should be able to defend ourselves, whether we're a man or a woman. And if we got to sell it, I guess, oh, women's self-defense, and they're going to line up, and with their little plastic Kobutans, and they'll be waiting. This is what I got in my last self-defense. They gave me this Kubaton. I'm like, why would you use a Kubaton instead of a pen? And they'd be like, I don't know. That's what he told me. So I think it's a good marketing scheme. So, and if that's what it takes to get people in the door, so be it. But to say that you're creating empowering women, then shouldn't you have a self-defense for men so you can empower men? So, or are you going to be that guy that's like, what I mean? It's like they make the Asians now, they have to score like 130% on a test to even pass, where, certain people will only have to score like 32%, or, so it's just, that's the kind of, I think that's the kind of people that it's going to attract. And that's kind of, I'm
So,
not saying it's a bad
so,
thing. It's just a
so
thing.
let's go. Let's go to the deeper level of this question, though. Let's go to the deeper level. So we were on the surface. We all agree it's a marketing thing, but on a deeper level, then the real question is, what should specifically women be learning? Should it be the exact same thing as a man? And then if that's the case, then what does that look like? Because now we're broadening out to self-defense in general.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation many times,
Yeah.
but still within this context, what would you say? Let's go back to our woman that's 125, 130 pounds.
Right.
Let's go back to the 130-pound woman and a 130-pound guy. Let's say they're both the same person. Let's say neither of them have trained. Let's say both of them, because we always have to make these parameters, right? Because everyone's different. So in our hypothetical situation, we have a guy and a girl who are not overweight. They're not underweight. They're not exactly a MMA fighter. They're your average person. They go to work. Maybe they go to the gym 3 to 5 times a week and do a little bit of cardio and lift a little bit of weights, but they're not exactly spectacularly strong in any type of sense. Is there anything different that you would teach the guy who's 125 pounds versus the girl who's 125 pounds?
No,
Okay.
not a thing.
And then what would you teach? Let's say you walk into the door, someone says, or not walk in the door. Let's say you're holding a self-defense. We're going to take out the women's because obviously we talked about you don't want to be part of the women's self-defense marketing ploy. Let's just say that some
No,
corporation.
I'm not saying I don't want to be part of it. I like it.
Oh, okay, you
I'll
like it.
do
Okay. Okay, you'll
I'll
do it.
I'm just
Okay.
saying. I know it's a it's a ploy. But
Yeah, we know it's a ploy. We know it's a ploy. We know
But
it's a ploy.
here's why I would do it is because a lot of women will just say, "Okay, I love it," because there's other women there, and they want to do that. So that's the reason I would do it. Because if you do a men's self defense course, everybody go, "Oh, that's terrible. Why are you defending?" But if I had to teach a man and a woman the same class, and they were similar, similar in size and skill level, I would teach them, I would teach them that they are not anywhere near the same. And what I teach him probably won't work for you. So the only way that you can come anywhere near what I'm teaching the guy is an equalizer. So women need an equalizer because they'll never be able to beat a guy. They can't outfight him, out grapple him, out anything them. There are some techniques that I teach both, but will behoove the women more because we have such a big deficit in the skill and the strength and the fighting ability. And that would be, like I said, first thing would be an equalizer, a weapon, a gun, or a pepper spray, or a knife. And for the guy, I would teach him more than that. Like I would teach him some punches, kicks, knees. Then I would go to the equalizers. With the women, I'm going to start with the equalizers because they got nothing else really. So that's kind of how I would teach. That's what I would teach differently, is the fact that women are starting so much, more behind. They have to start with the equalizer. Where a man, I would teach them the same. The first punch I teach is the Dan Henderson H bomb, and this is the most natural punch because all I gotta do is put a paddle up and say hit this as hard as you can, and like 99% of the guys are gonna use their dominant side, their rear side, and throw some kind of sloppy right hand. Now, if that sloppy right hand lands, it could still knock someone out and teach them. And I teach from there because that's the way a lot of these wrestlers who joined the UFC, that's why they were pretty good at punching because they just went with their strength. The women don't have that. So they have to start with punching with something, with a knife or something like that. So that's where my similarities are and my differences. The similarities are it's going to be the same basic technique. The differences are I'm going to start at different places along the spectrum of self-defense for women than I would for men, because women, you know, need that jump. So say a guy attacks a woman, doesn't even have to be a big guy, maybe not a skilled guy. Her first thing would be probably depending on if he wouldn't stop and she felt in fear for her life, the first thing would probably be a gun. Say the pepper spray didn't work. I'm not going to go now try a knife. I would go right to the gun. The guy, on the other hand, if he did that, they would say he didn't exhaust all of his other options, and he probably wouldn't get away with it as much. He would have to, he'd probably do some time for, shooting the guy. So that's where that difference is. But I don't teach differently because of the legal aspect of it. But I'm just saying there is a legal aspect of it. But I just say do whatever it takes to stop the threat and get home safe. So for a guy, that's probably either punch him or maybe pepper spray him and stab him. With a woman, it would probably be she could probably get away with shooting first, as the man could
So
in
there are
court.
so there are some differences. There are some, not majorly, not enough for you to pull apart a class and make a women's only self-defense class, but there are some differences there that you just mentioned right now. Like they're subtle, but they are there. But at the same time,
What do you mean difference? Because the differences that I'm mentioning are far from subtle. They're blatant. They like jump out in your face. You
yeah, no, what
watch any guy fight a girl. Like she has to start. Like I said, she can't start anywhere near the guy. The techniques are the same, but they're taught in a whole different order. They're
okay.
completely different.
So
So
here's question number two then. Here's question number two then. They're taught in a different order. So when
yeah.
this happens, do you let's say you have guys and girls working together in the same class. Do you just start teaching them differently right then and there, or do you have separate classes to cover that?
if I taught a self-defense class,
Let's say it's a self-defense class. Why not?
yeah,
In that hypothetical situation.
yeah, in a self-defense class, it would be taught the way it plays out. So I think I just maybe answered the question.
You did. No,
I
you
don't think
did.
this is why I don't think this is why people do that though. I don't think most people teach women's self-defense classes because they have to start so much, much more on the, on the spectrum. You have to start throwing weapons in so far down here. But so okay, like the class I just took with Tim Kennedy, the protector course, that was probably, it could have been a women's self-defense class too for men because it started with the weapons. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So he didn't.
So
He
that's
just, you started. He just went right in. If you're a woman or a
I
man,
didn't really think of that. I just know you have to treat them differently, teach them differently. But come to find out, and now I'm just realizing this right now, you don't have to teach them differently by technique, but you do have to teach them in a different order. So boom, yeah,
there it is.
dang,
Boom. We just
we
saw
just
that.
got enlightened in our own live here. But yeah,
Yeah, just learned something. We both just learned something. Here's some comments related to what we're talking about. Zim Baron says, "Wow, we went from women's self-defense topic and it turned into a turned into talking about McDojo topic." And feel free to ask questions what I said earlier. Zen laughed this joke. Mr. Owak, I don't think it's legit. Fighting is fighting. Women are at a serious disadvantage against a man without a firearm. All I see is a false sense of security from things like growing strikes.
right, right. So I think that's, and I think that's accurate when they're starting off here in a Walmart parking lot or in a bedroom where they were just starting off, like two guys in a cage fighting, squaring off, or if the guy hits her and she's standing right there, basically. But 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 I do think that it's so far spread. But then if it gets to a different position where it probably won't for a guy unless he's in prison, like he's trying to rape her, then all of a sudden she's put in different positions where she has different opportunistic techniques like biting and eye gouging, right? So she can play possum where a guy really can. Like she can make like she wants to kiss the guy or do something else to the guy, and then just fucking let loose with some kind of serious damaging, attack with her mouth, teeth, or her eye gouging. Like she could get her finger up and try to just play it coy and see it that he's gonna like kind of loosen up, let down his guard a little. Then if she has the finger anywhere near his eye, she could just go for the kill with that, and she could do some damage. Teaching those kind of techniques probably wouldn't end up so well because people want to learn self-defense, but they don't want to hear vicious fucking things about where that attack might go. I think the majority of women that do a women's self-defense class, I don't think they want to hear about the brutality of what goes on in a women's attack situation. They might hear about rape and then see some lady got kind of drunk and a guy had sex with her, and then he didn't call her the next day, so she said he raped her. So that's the kind of rapes that's we've been hearing about and seeing, like date rape. I'm not saying any other dates aren't real rape, but I'm talking about brutal life or death rapes where they're trying to rape and kill you, as opposed to a date rape situation.
So I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but I'm gonna go for it. Okay, I got this, and I can't say. Okay, well, I'm gonna say that this is on a public platform and that this is a cucumber. But here's an 80s. Here's an 80s self-defense technique that I found online. It's a cucumber, okay? I'm gonna make it very clear this is a cucumber, and this is the kind of thing they're talking about. Without having to go there. And then
Oh, she ripped it right off.
Yeah.
Oh
Yes.
my god. Okay, that's what that kind of what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Okay,
I know.
let me tell you a
You're
story.
insinuating it. That wasn't good. I figured
Okay,
I
let
know
me
it's
tell you a
something.
story. Let me tell you a story. I'm working in the ER. I'm not gonna say what hospital. And it's a night shift, and some very, very um, flamboyant gay guy came in. Okay, he had probably 15 or 16 stab marks on his back. Okay, he has like 15 or 16. None of them are fatal, and most of them were pretty superficial. Actually, he ended up. I don't even know if he had to be admitted. I think they could be stood up, but it was so weird, and we were trying to figure out. He wouldn't say what really happened, and we were just thinking, what the hell, what was. So come to find out, somebody else came in like 20 minutes later to the ER, and he had part of his penis bitten off. So the cops came and they did this investigation in the ER, and it comes to find out the guy with all the stab marks on his back was a very flamboyant, gay guy, and I guess the guy picked him up and was forcing him to perform on him. So he started to, then he bit his penis, and the guy had a knife and he kept stabbing him, and they both ended up in the same ER. That's a true story. That's a
Oh
true story.
man. So all right.
Anyway,
Anyway, that's a so Conor McGregor. I will say, guys, take for granted the fact that they don't usually have to be fearful when walking alone or living alone, etc. I also believe the only true equalizer is a gun.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, I think a knife can be if a woman actually practice. Imagine practicing with a woman that had some badass moves with a knife. Practice the knife daily. Like I do. I practice with my knife, and I do draws too. Like, 4 or 5 times a week. I practice, and I practice with the moves. And if a woman did that too, she could be very proficient. And she could beat a guy. A woman, if she practiced hard enough with her knife and trained with it and became proficient, she could beat a guy with bare hands. So I disagree, because you could walk around and nobody even see you having a knife until you get attacked, and he might think she's vulnerable, that he doesn't see a weapon, so she attacks her, and next thing you know, he feels some blood running down his ribs, and he has a hard time catching his breath. Then he realizes she just stabbed him in the ribs and punctured his lung. So I think women, okay, people overall, but women are included just as much, maybe even more, because they're not into self-defense or, martial arts as much. But I think it's the lack of discipline that people don't practice these techniques that are so vital to stay alive. And a woman has to get over the hump where, she has to realize she needs this to be equal with this for a man. So we're starting off way not equal. Like if a guy attacked me and I just pulled out my knife and started stabbing him, they'd look at me in the court a lot. Oh, you're a martial artist. You're 200 pounds. You could have tried to fight him. Because you're not supposed to overdo the weapon, right? The weaponry. You're supposed to match it at best or below it when you're self defense. Like if a guy pulls out a knife, you can't, and you're say 10 feet away and you have your gun in your hand, you can't shoot him 10 times if he just stands there. You can if he keeps runs towards you, but it's different with a gun. So um, it's more of a, it's more of a, it's just more of an ender. I mean, it's more of a, you have to, like, if you stab somebody in a self-defense situation or shot them, you're going to be looked at much harsher by the court and the jury. So that's something to think about. So if you don't feel comfortable always carrying a gun around, women, practice with your knife. I mean, if you guys are willing to spend, like freaking 2 or 3 hours a day on your, makeup, you can fucking spend 20 minutes every day just working on your knife skills. Thing.
Mr. Awak says eye gouging for sure, like you said, playing possum. I think biting is also another overrated technique. They're not a dog or a shark. A bite might catch someone off guard, but it's not a KO blow. But then Mr.
Depends,
Awak,
depends what you're biting.
yeah, after Mr. Awak heard our little story, I was gonna say it sounded like some weird fetish until the other guy had a missing penis. That part came out.
Yeah.
Larry comes in. Larry Arojo says, "I couldn't fight women. It's not advisable. Women are to be respected, not to hurt them." And then Mr. Awa comes in real quick and says, "Larry, cowards go for the easiest target."
Yeah. Yeah, I half agree with that. I think women and men should be attacked, and there should be respect for both. But a woman is, I mean, I'm going to protect a woman. If I saw two people getting attacked, I had to go one way or another, and all other things being equal, I'm going to go, protect the woman, and that's just, the way, my wife and I talk all the time. You do this, 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 and if she complains about certain things she has to do, you know, uh, she always comes back and says, "Yeah, but you're going to protect me if I need it." And so that she knows that, and that is those are our roles. My wife's getting her black belt. She hits pretty freaking hard, harder than most men, especially men that vote that way. But still, I'm going to protect her over anyone else. But a woman over a man. That's my point I'm trying to make. And a knife, the you know the way that they won't practice and train and be safer, it boggles my mind because they're willing to spend their time doing, you know, other things, but why not stay safe? That's weird because I am a little OCD when it comes to it, but I mean, even when I'm done training, I'm finishing my coffee, I'm gonna go outside in the backyard, put on some of my music, and I'm gonna go overnight, just different moves over and over and over and over, just so if I ever get attacked, it's second nature what I'm doing, and that's what I want. I'm not learning fancy stuff, and I'm not trying to compete, but if I get jumped, I know that adrenaline will be such a rush. I need to have these in my muscle memory so they just come out naturally, and I don't have to go, what do I do? What do I do? Oh. So anyway, I wish more women did that.
So Mr. Awak is having a conversation with Larry, but John, all about articulation. I was scared for my life and I don't know what happened. I just blacked out. Oh, okay, you're talking about like in that situation. Especially if you're in the communist state of California, though unfortunately, LOL. Mac Trey, I hate sparring with women. They go too hard, which brings me to my other part of the question that I was going to say earlier. Women's classes, all women classes, right? The idea that some places are doing women's only classes just to separate the women from the men. And maybe they're learning the exact same thing. I see this happening in jiu-jitsu quite a bit. Going to Mac Trey's comment of I hate sparring with women because they go too hard. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think I think I've never met a woman that went too hard. If a woman's going, you perceive a woman as going too hard on you, then I mean, you should be able to just play with them. So if you honestly think they're going too hard, then you gotta pick up your training or something because
He's probably
I've
joking.
never, what?
He's probably joking.
No, he's saying they go too hard because I'm thinking but you shouldn't perceive it that way because I know they're gonna push, 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 but then I mean, what's coming out on your end is probably shouldn't be that hard. But I don't like to train. I've never sparred with a woman except for goofing around with my wife and some of my students. But when I was fighting, I would never ever spar with a woman, even though we had a couple women fighters in our dojo, including a couple world champions, including Lily Rodriguez, Euclides. We had Kathy Long, and we had a couple others, but I'll only spar the guy, and and I feel like the guy that said biting, we don't bite, we can't bite, really. If you bit with bad intentions, because usually you see, like even the Tyson bite, even though that big part of it, that would have stopped the fight. That would have put the fight in your favor. While you bit. If there wasn't a referee in there and Tyson was allowed to hit him, Tyson probably could have knocked out Holyfield after he bit his ear off, because you instantly just, like, if you bit guy, imagine you bit someone's nose right off, or they would just be like this for a second. You bit someone's ear off, or bit the side of their face off, or if they were making you do something down there, bite their what off. I mean, you got on they've got their chest on your face and they're on top of you. If you bit their nipple off, you got their chest, you bit. I mean, you could do some damage, and that damage could, turn the tide of the fight in your favor, woman or man. But they just don't. Women, people don't really think of that much as self defense. I don't know why. It's a terrible move, and it will make a lot of people, unless the guy's wearing a double leather jacket and you can't get to their face, but if you can get near someone's face and just bite with every bad intention in the world, I bet you it would make a huge difference. It wouldn't just piss the guy off, while kicking him in the balls, to me, would just piss him off.
MacTray says, clarifies, I don't want to hit her and hurt her when he's sparring. So he's trying to figure out, he's trying to gauge what's going on. Which brings me back to the other question I just said. So in your classes, if you have women who are, I know you have co-ed classes, but during the sparring, you do put the women with the women. Then they're sparring with other women.
Yeah, and if they are, and they're learning the same stuff, so I'm not starting them on that self-defense spectrum. I'm starting them in the Hawaiian Kempo spectrum, which is a street self-defense, but it's not. There's no gender to it, so it defaults to the man. Okay. But during sparring, I almost always try to match the girls up. But if they do go with the guys, I tell them, if if you want to go hard on the guy, he's going to go hard back. You're going to get hurt. He's not. So if you have to go with the guy, go at his power. How bad you want to get hit back, and that's on a percentage. So you give him 50% of yours, he'll give you 50% of his. But I try to discourage it whenever I can. I think grappling with a woman is just like, I don't know, it's the next thing to having sex. So I guess it's fun, but it's just, I don't see that. I see drilling, yes, but rolling, I don't see it. Don't see it. Don't see it at all. It's like seriously, they get in some weird positions. But anyway,
So
when you're sparring, you don't get in any weird positions where body parts are rubbing. You're just punching, right?
So I guess you are bringing up something good though. As far as when we were talking about earlier about whether you would have a women's self-defense class or a women's class, sounds like off of what you just said, specifically with jujitsu, since we're not punching and kicking each other and we end up in a lot of different positions compared to stand up, not to mention the close proximity you are with your sparring partner. It's more beneficial and comfortable for all parties involved if you do have a women's class for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I think it should be just women on women, unless it just, yeah. But sparring and Hawaiian Kempo, we drill on the ground here and there, but there's no just fucking hours of just grinding and rolling and pushing, and it's just no.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, Mr. Awak says, not saying you can't bite. I probably bit in every fight I've been in that ended up on the ground, but the idea someone is going to quit because you bite them, like I see being promoted, is wrong.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Depends on the bite. I mean, some people could say, well, if somebody just hit me, I wouldn't quit, but then depends on the hit, right? You know what I mean?
But I think he's talking more about those self-defense videos you see that only rely on the biting, only rely on the eye poking. and
Yeah,
have like
or
zero answer to if someone's mounted on you, then you're gonna bite them and they're not teaching you how to do a basic bridge escape. I think that's what he might be referring to.
yeah,
If I'm not mistaken, Mac, you can correct me
yeah,
there.
yeah. I mean, if somebody mounts you and they have their posture, not yours, you know what I mean? If you can't break their posture, they're gonna just punch you in the face, right? But if you are able to break their posture and get their face near yours, boom. And some positions lend themselves to that, like side control a lot of times, or even some half guards. They're just like they're not made for the street at all. Because I mean, even if cops are learning these techniques that I don't know. Anyway,
You should never feel comfortable laying on your back with someone on top of you, Liz. I'll just tell you that right now. Don't get comfortable.
no, but
If there's striking involved, you should not get comfortable with letting someone have the top position
no,
and
the
hitting you.
posturing,
Yeah,
yeah. That's, I mean,
yeah.
but but I say it the opposite way. I spent so much time ever since I started with MMA, being a striker, and everybody I've worked with, including multiple Gracies and Ricardo Laborios and the best jujitsu guys, just I always I bring some to the table, striking and takedown defense and stuff like that, um, but when we do trade off, I always say, I'll teach you this, this, and this. I want to learn this escape, that escape, and this escape. Always from the bottom. I never want to escape from the top because most of the time I'm worried about. So I get to the point where I'm comfortable on the bottom, very comfortable on the bottom. But you have to be comfortable only when they're not a threat. And if they're postured up at me, right, and I don't have control of their hands, I'm gonna posture myself so I am and not be able to accept little taps and shit. Um, but I want them to be comfortable on the bottom because if you're not, you'll panic and then you just start freaking out, and next thing you know, you're gonna just cover up and just get pounded. So it's kind of what you said and what I say.
Yeah.
Don't ever get comfortable there, but always be comfortable there.
But feel comfortable to do the move from that position. Yeah, exactly. So
when you have people on top of you and they're going to hit you, even if it's training, but they're going to kind of rain down punches, and you spend a lot of time in that position, you all of a sudden you're working on getting out. But when it first starts happening and you're not comfortable down there, you're going to start panicking, right?
yeah,
So,
and I've met BJJ brown belts that did sports jujitsu and the whole time, so they never really encountered that type of sparring. When they encounter that type of sparring, even though they're pretty comfortable, right? They've done it in practice, but when it's really happening, they freak out and they start realizing that it's not the same. It's not the same. Trying to stop someone trying to punch you in the face and they're wearing a t-shirt, they're not wearing a gi, especially the gi jiu-jitsu. Not to pick on the gi jiu-jitsu guys, but yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. You get really comfortable with someone wearing a gi. You haven't really gone up against a guy just wearing a t-shirt trying to punch you. It changes things. And the
yeah,
pace is
you get comfortable. Next thing you get bucked forward, the guy pops you in, and your chest gets right to his mouth, and he fucking bites as hard as he can, and he fucking bites your nipple off. You're not gonna just say, you guys fake when you bite. He's gonna be bleeding. He's gonna be looking for an exit. You know what I mean? So.
Mac Trey says, I don't feel comfortable rolling with women. And Mr. Alec agrees. Yeah, rolling with women is odd. Always felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Alec also clears up. Yes. Thank you, Angelo. The self-defense videos is what I'm talking about. Those videos that you see online of the one and only answer is always the same, and they're not
a
really
bite or a ball kick. Bite
ball,
him or
yeah,
ball kick.
ball kick or bite him
Poke him
or
in the
I
eye.
got you. Poke him in the eyes. Poke him in the eyes. Yeah, poke him in the eyes.
All of those are good techniques, but none of them are end-all techniques.
Yeah, I like the way Stephen Kesting put it. You have there's the warhead, and then there's the rocket. The more you work on the rocket, then once you put a warhead on there, you'll just do more damage. So like if you're working on like the way your program works, a lot of cardio, a lot of drills, a lot of practical gross motor skills. Once on top of all that, we add the the warhead of eye gouging and biting, you already have a nice rocket, then you're
Yeah.
good to go.
Now throw a knife and a gun in there, and you got even a more deadly rocket.
Yeah, you just get a more powerful warhead. So that's the rocket propels you, and the warhead helps you do the damage. All right. Wow,
Good.
I answered all the comments while continuing the conversation. Give myself a pat on the back on this one. This has been another episode of the Live Clean and Fight Dirty show. One episode every Wednesday at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. There are still slots available for self-defense and martial arts.
Man or woman.
Man or woman. Online. Thepit.tv. You can order a course for less than 2 cups of coffee. What it costs for 2 cups of coffee. You can check it out. And if you like it, then you can sign up. Still very affordable. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. They are real courses. This isn't like an online multiple choice answer and watching videos. You actually are watching live classes and working and with John Hackleman, and he actually talks to you. So check it out if you haven't already.
Come on down.
All right, that's right, Zen. Don't let anyone take your lunch.